How's it going, guys?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. You guys have time for a short interview?
Yeah, I guess.
About 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. I time it to
Okay.
respect people's time. So what I do is I have short interviews with random people about a belief that they hold, and you get to pick whatever that is. And I just ask questions to uncover how you got to that belief and the method you use to conclude that it's true.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Ooh. Man,
So.
it's going to take me longer than 5 minutes to think
I try
about
to, you can always go over, but it's just the 5 minutes to respect people's time. I know you guys got things to do.
So
So,
it's a belief that you hold,
yeah.
and why you hold that to be true?
I can give you some examples
Okay.
of what people talk about,
Go ahead.
but it can be anything. So some typical examples would be like, I believe karma is real and happening.
Okay.
I believe my horoscope is accurate for the day. I saw a ghost. I believe prayer works. I believe in a God.
Just out of curiosity, what you going to use this for?
I have a YouTube channel, and so the more interesting talks I put up on YouTube.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I talked to someone about aliens. That was fun. But I think typically the discussions that are something you're really sure of and it affects your daily actions. So like if you didn't have the belief, you would maybe it would affect your actions in some way. Those are the beliefs or those are the interviews that tend to be more interesting.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Huh. Well,
You want to give it a shot?
yeah, I guess so. I'm gonna probably go with my belief in God, I suppose, since it's sort of deep. I don't know. It seems like a theological type.
Okay. Are you okay if I record?
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. All right, man.
Go ahead, Mom. You got it.
My name is Eddie.
Oh, okay, Jamie.
Jamie?
Yes, sir.
Jamie?
That's right.
Okay. Cool.
I'd probably pull the glasses off.
No worries. All right. So I want to start off with a thought experiment.
Okay.
So I have this container of Tic Tacs.
Okay.
Would you agree that the amount of Tic Tacs in this container is either even or odd?
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. So let's say that I believe that they're even and you believe that they're odd.
Okay.
And we busted it open, poured it all out, and counted them. And it turned out to be like 27. Would it be accurate to say that you were correct and I was mistaken?
Sure. I'm okay with that line of thinking. Yes.
Okay. So like we couldn't both be right that it's even.
That's correct. Right.
Okay. All right. So that's the thought experiment.
Okay.
Getting back to your belief, I never want to assume because I talked to a lot of different people. Which God do you believe in?
I personally believe in the God of the Bible,
Okay.
specifically Christianity.
Got it. Okay. Real quick, I want to get a sense of your confidence
Okay.
that this God is real.
Mm-hmm.
From 0 to 100. 100 being, I know it. I'm absolutely certain. 0 being like I have all questions. I'm not confident
I'll
at
go
all.
like a 99.
99.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's always some times when you doubt things.
Okay. What is the main reason that you are 99% confident?
I think a big part of it is hope. I think it's important for people to have something to believe in that's bigger than themselves. And I think there's other evidences that kind of point in that direction that would support my belief. I know you're going to get into that, but yeah, I think one of the biggest things is you just got to have something to believe in that's bigger than yourself.
If we were like to pie chart the reasons that you believe this is true, and hope was in there, and then the evidence, whatever that is,
Sure.
is in there. Which one, like, what percentage would take up the pie chart for those?
I would say hope would probably be like a good 25% maybe of the pie chart,
Okay.
and different evidences from there.
Okay. So so the main reason that you're convinced of it
Sure.
is evidence-based, and the 25% is hope. Okay. Can you think of an example of, I guess, well, before we go there, whatever the evidence that you're thinking of, if it wasn't the case, or if you discovered that the evidence was maybe not as clear or something like that, or you never exposed to that evidence, would you still be 99% confident?
I like to think of myself as a person of reason, so if there was some logical evidence that kind of supported, not believing God, it's like laying out the Tic Tacs, like you said. When you see the clear number of Tic Tacs and you're okay, well, I was mistaken, then I'd like to think that I was a man of reason. So yes, with an evidence that said there is no God, I would like to think that I would say, well, gosh, I just really changes my belief system right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think is the most important or most influential piece of evidence for you?
I think within nature itself and the physical, empirical nature that we observe and that we, as human beings, relate to, I think there's evidences of things that are what I like to call superhuman. And I don't mean like Superman, but talking superhuman things, for example, time. We have no real empirical evidence to say when time started, and no real empirical evidence to say when time ends. So it's like there's this element that's bigger than mankind. It just continues to go on, and we don't really, we count time, we keep track of time, but that's just one element that seems to be bigger than man's understanding, because when does time start and when does time end? And it's not when you start your day or when you die and you're done and your time on earth is done. There's this element that seems to be bigger than human beings.
Okay.
So that's one. And death is a big one too, because people don't really understand death. We're born into this world, but everyone dies. Every human being is subject to death. No one has been able to go beyond death. And as Christians, we believe that Christ Jesus did not, he died, but then was resurrected to life. And so, besides that one belief that I hold, there is no evidence that any human being has died or been raised to life or not died. So.
Okay. I'm going to repeat back what you just
Sure.
said, and just let me know if I'm not
Okay.
understanding it correctly.
Okay.
The most influential piece of evidence for you is nature and how it behaves, I guess you were saying?
I guess it's the idea that if you observe nature, you can see evidences of superhuman things. So I would say the evidence would be superhuman qualities, if you will.
Okay.
Such as death and time, or two that I
Okay.
come up with.
And you're saying the reason why the evidence is compelling is because we don't quite understand it. We have no way to understand it. Death and time.
Exactly. They're
Okay.
beyond the human realm, if you will. So
Okay.
already you could call them gods if you wanted to, many gods. I don't hold a belief in them as gods, but for some people, because death is beyond humanity, it supersedes humanity, then you could call it a mini god because it is superhuman. And then same way with time, because we don't necessarily, you can't box time in. There's no beginning and no end. it supersedes the beginning of humanity, and it will continue past humanity. Therefore, it's bigger than humanity. It's an evidence that there is something out there that is bigger than humanity. And so you could worship time as a god. And again, it would be a mini god, or you could look at these are evidences that there are things out there that are bigger than humanity themselves.
Okay. How does the understanding that something is bigger than us relate to the confidence in the Christian God?
Sure, and that is hope. Hope is what ties that together, that there is something bigger than death, and there is something bigger than time. And so, evidence supports that there's something bigger than humanity. What is that? And for me as a Christian, that hope, that thing that ties all that together is a belief in the Christian God.
Okay.
Because Jesus has both, he was before time began, he will continue after time, and then he conquered death. He was killed, put to death in human form, but raised to life, and so he has conquered. Death no longer has a hold on his human body.
Okay. I'm trying to understand. I don't think I quite understand, but let me kind of ask another question. Are you saying that the hope enables the evidence to be impactful to your belief?
So
like if you didn't have hope, let's say that wasn't available to you, you had no hope, and all you had was the evidence, would the evidence be less impactful to your confidence?
Yeah, if I had only the evidence and not the hope, I might tend to say, well, death is a god. I might tend to say that time is a god. And I think that there would be evidences for, and I can't, right off the top of my head, I can't think what they would be, but I think there's evidences that, there's these superhuman knowledge. Knowledge, to me, is a god, because it's supersede. No one person can have all the knowledge. Even with all the computers that we have and the internet and everything that we're collecting, knowledge is always increasing, because every time that something happens, there's more knowledge added. And so it's impossible for anything to know everything.
Okay.
So again, there's these superhuman elements that seem to exist in our empirical natural world. And because those evidences exist that there are things bigger than humanity, if I didn't have the hope, I would say, oh, these are gods. I have all my gods here.
Okay.
It's kind of like having, prior to Christianity and Judaism, all the people who worship many gods, I think I would have my own collection of gods, which would be knowledge, death, time. These are the gods that I would worship.
Okay. I think I understand now. Okay. So basically, for you, the evidence that there are superhuman, I guess, characteristics or things that are happening that are things that we can't understand, those are, in a sense, gods, but what gets you to Christianity is that 25% hope. Okay. Have you ever hoped for something and not gotten it or been mistaken about it? Like, let's say you hope that you passed a test.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something I could think of. I'm not sure what it would be right offhand, but do you need me to come up with a specific example of something I've hoped for?
Not necessarily. Do you recognize that hope, if you have hope in something, that you could be mistaken?
Yeah. I do acknowledge that. Yeah, especially if you hope in something that, and that's, I've always heard this preached from a pulpit, but the saying goes something like this, which is, if you don't hope in something, but I do, if we both die and I'm right, or if we both die and you're wrong, you go to hell. But if we both die and I'm right, I go to heaven and you go to hell, or something like that. I hope that makes some sense. So it's like, yeah, I'm hoping in something that I could be wrong about, but I'd rather be wrong and nothing. Oh yeah, that's it. I guess if nothing would happen if I'm wrong, because there is no God, there's nothing beyond this life. I just lay in a dirt grave for the rest of time, if you will, or whatever, forever, eternity, however you want to, whatever's beyond time. But if I'm wrong, yeah, I could just be laying in a dirt grave. But if I'm right, I could be enjoying eternity in paradise. And so I'd rather be wrong about my hope than to, I guess I'd rather be right than wrong about my hope.
If you use hope to be 99% confident that it's true, but you recognize that you may not always, you could be wrong, and really you're doing it as like an insurance policy, is that intellectually dishonest?
Intellectually dishonest.
To use hope to be confident, 99% confident?
That's something that, maybe you could convince me that it was intellectually dishonest. If you had some arguments that suggested that was intellectually dishonest, I might say, maybe I am being intellectually dishonest. But just off the top of my head, I would say that, people want to have something to believe in. I think people need hope for a future, a better future. You tell someone that is homeless or has a dying child or is dying themselves of cancer. You tell them that tomorrow they're going to wake up in a dirt grave and there's no future beyond that. There's not a future in that, and obviously that's the end, therefore there is no future. And I think people need a future. If you were lying just to make people feel better about their death, is that intellectually dishonest? Maybe. But if you are truly convinced in your heart that that future exists, is it intellectually dishonest? I don't think so. I think it's just it's a hope for a better future that it's like telling your child we're going to Disneyland just to keep them quiet in the back seat. Yeah, you're just doing it to keep them quiet, but I don't know. Maybe there's some intellectual dishonesty there, but you can see a reason for it. And I think we as adults sometimes do things to our children just to pacify them, if you will. And so is my hope just pacifying me through this journey on earth? I'd like to think not. Again, if you don't have that hope, what are you living for? What is the purpose of life? And if you can convince me that there is a better purpose to life, when you die and you lay in a grave for the rest of time, I'd really like to hear what that purpose of life is, because I can't think of anything better than having a hope of a life after death. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, I think I understand. If someone were to explain to you maybe a better... Hey, buddy. If someone were to explain to you a better scenario that what you believe in right now, whatever it is, if you felt it might be better, and they said that they know it's true, or they're confident that it's true because the hope that it gives them, would you be swayed by that? Would you maybe?
I would at least want to hear it and listen to it, and then it's one of those things that I would have to evaluate. I mean, it's something like that is such a momentous, life-changing.
Yeah, but like, let's say if it was just so much better, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
If it was better,
and I heard it, and I was like, man, this is definitely better. Like, I was convinced just by hearing it that this is definitely better.
Would you jump ship?
I would jump ship.
Oh.
I think I would. I know that sounds like I don't have a whole lot of confidence in what I believe. I guess I'm saying I do have a whole lot of confidence in what I believe. So it would have to be really convincing, you know. But
okay.
Yeah.
So let's say I were to tell you if there was an even amount of Tic Tacs in this,
Mm-hmm.
and if there was, I would give you $10 million. Would you be convinced that there's even?
You're telling me that there are. You know for certain in your mind that there are.
No, I'm saying if there was an even amount.
Okay. If there was an
I would give you $10 million.
You would give me $10 million.
Would you jump ship and say I'm now confident that there's even?
What do I get if there's odd?
You don't get anything.
Don't get anything? Yeah, then I'll jump ship for even.
And you would be confident that there was even.
I don't know if I'd be confident, but I sure be hoping that there was an even amount.
If you hope there's even, does that make it true that there is even?
No, it doesn't make it true, does it? But there's empirical evidence that it's either odd or even, and so I have a 50-50 chance. Yeah.
If you hope that the Christian God is the correct God, and you use hope to be confident,
Mm-hmm.
Does that translate to it being true?
No, again, I think there's empirical evidence it's either even or odd, but we hope, for the sake of the reward, that there is an even amount.
Yeah. So just in the sense that you would say maybe it's not intellectually honest to say that it is now even because the reward is better if it is. It may not be intellectually honest to say I believe with a 99% confidence because the hope it gives me.
Right, exactly. Does that make sense?
Yes. So I'm wondering, are you pretending to know something you don't?
Again, I don't, with something like that, there is no real empirical way to know. It's impossible.
Like we can't spill this all out and find out there's God or not.
Well, with that, you're asking me to believe without having physically, empirically counted them.
Yeah, like
and so I'm looking at them in a bottle and guessing, are they even or are they odd?
But there's like a way for us to figure it out.
There is a way for us to figure it out. And I think in death, there is a way for us to figure out whether this hope is right or wrong.
Okay.
But just to ask me to look at the jar and guess one way or the other, because essentially that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the jar and saying, are they even or are they odd? And, it's impossible to really know without having the physical empirical evidence right in front of you. And so I'm saying the empirical evidence says they're either even or odd. And I'm choosing, because you're offering me a reward, I'm choosing to go with the even as opposed to the odd. So in a sense, Christ Jesus or God himself is...
When you say you're choosing to go with even, do you mean you're more confident that it is even, or you just hope that it is?
I hope that
Okay. If the only way we can really know which one, if it's true or not, the Christian God, is the only way to really know is for us to die. Is 99% confidence the most accurate spot to be?
Yeah, again, because the evidence supports that there is something bigger than life. The evidence supports that they're either even or odd. But if you put your confidence in the odd and you get nothing in return, then, to me, thank you. That's very foolish to put your confidence in something that is going to bring you nothing. If I put my confidence in a hope that could change my future, I would rather bet on the $10 million, and I'd rather bet on Christ Jesus as resurrected from the dead and have a hope in a future in both instances.
I see. Yeah. This is my last question.
Sure,
we went over, so
yeah.
I appreciate your talking with me. Is there being a Christian God or no God the only options?
Again, with the empirical evidence, you could take and make these mini gods, because they are superhuman. They have bigger than human qualities: death, time, knowledge, and I think the ancient either Greeks or Romans, they all had names for these gods: Kronos and Poseidon, and because they recognized that these qualities had superhuman capabilities, and they gave them names, and they worshiped them. And so I think, there is an option besides God, but again, I choose to believe in God. So.
Okay.
Is this a hint that we're?
I'll wrap.
Okay.
I'm wrapping up.
I'm sorry.
Last question.
Sure.
If there are other options, like if there could be both no Christian God and both, like it's not, if it could be false that there is no God and false that there's a Christian God, there's other options like, other religions and other faiths. Is it a really good approach to just go with which one sounds better? So like if I found a religion that had a heaven that was more appealing or a hell that was less harsh, would it be a good way to know that it's true